Dope Friends Podcast, Episode 2, ReZsaun Lewis.
I want to build a culture of young people who believe in themselves over everything else. People who believe in their community, productive members of society to do great things and not just think that just getting by is enough.
ReZsaun is the executive director of Lowcountry Youth Services. He's a former educator. He's a podcast host, Real Talk with ReZsaun. He's a father and a husband, and he has aspirations of a political future. I introduce to you my dope friend, ReZsaun Lewis. I have always admired you. You've always been a young man who's about his business. You have clear objectives that you want to accomplish, and you move towards those objectives in such a way and with such a lack of fear that anybody who sees you and knows you knows that what you have set your heart and attention to is going to get done. I think that is a great attribute, and I just wanted to say it. A lot of times we don't get an opportunity to say certain things, and that's the point, one of the points of this podcast. I want to be able to shout out my friends and let them know that I think they're doing a good job. Yes, we've had conversations before, but publicly, I see what you're doing in the community with the Lowcountry Youth Services, the Distinguished Gentlemen's Club. For those of you who don't know, it's a mentoring program with young children, young boys from elementary school all the way up to high school. And it is making a huge impact on these kids' lives. So take my hat off to you and everybody else who's involved in this program. And how do you find the motivation to keep going?
It's actually really easy to find the motivation. You've worked with us since, I want to say 2016. Since my first year, you're one of the first people I spoke to, and you came on board, and you've done an amazing job as a mentor as well. So I want to give you kudos first of all before I even say anything else, for your commitment and your dedication and your family's commitment. I've had the honor and privilege to watch young men grow and develop and aspire and achieve. When I see that in a world that tells these same young boys that by 25 years old, they should be dead or in jail, when that's the expectation, and I'm looking at these boys and I'm watching them grow into young men, and I'm watching them begin like some of the boys that were in when I first started, some of them have started families, joined the workforce, went in the military, gotten college degrees, like amazing young men. When I'm looking at that, it's easy to find the motivation. It's easy to understand that there has to be a space where those young men can go, regardless of their background, regardless of what, their socioeconomic strata, regardless of their parental situation. There has to be a place that they can go to and not just be a checkbox. Raph, we don't do check boxes. We don't do, right, we got this grant requirement, so let's make sure we're doing this because of this grant. No, we do the work because the work needs to be done. It's not hard to find that motivation. Now, the part that is difficult at times is having this amount of passion, this amount of commitment, this amount of work, this amount of impact. And when you speak to people who are in charge of the purse strings of municipalities, who are in charge of the purse strings of corporations, who are in charge of the purse strings of foundations, when they look at us and say, it's not enough, we can't fund that. That's the part that gets frustrating, because it's like, okay, we're doing all of this though, and we're making this impact, and we have, the testimonials, and we have the information that says the work that we're doing is impactful, and they're just like, nah, that's not worth funding. And that's the part that can be frustrating. But then I go back to the first part, and I remember that for them, it's worth building the house that they can live in. And that's what we try to do at Lowcountry Youth Services as a team, not just me, everybody. You, Ken, James, Jawan, Jerome, the board, like everybody. Like it's just like it's a collective effort. And it's not hard to be motivated in that regard. I love them. I love everybody that's ever had an opportunity to see what it is that we do, because people who see us know what we do.
Recently, some of my dope friends have been going out to the mailbox and coming back in with some dope gear. They're ordering it from IamADopeFriend.com. And my dope friends have been representing. Go to www.IamADopeFriend.com and click on the Dope Merch tab. From there, all you have to do is find your style, find your size, and purchase. Pick one up for one of your dope friends. There are a lot of people who find it difficult to talk about themselves and to say that I'm proud of myself for this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Have you always been that way where you can see that and you can recognize that, or was there a process for you to get to that point?
I think it ebbs and flows. I think there were times where I was really proud of myself when I probably shouldn't have been. But I come from a really interesting background, from my childhood to now, and it's always been a steady journey to get from where I was to where I am as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a leader. In my community. I've always had to. I've always had checks in my life. Let's put it that way. I've always had checks in my life. People that have been around me that'll say, okay, like my dad would say, I don't want to tell you too much because I don't want you to get big head. So that always kept me humble. Like, yeah, you're doing really, really good, but just calm down. You still got, your boo-boo still stinks, as they say. You always have to realize that. And I've always had family members that would do that for me. Some in not so positive ways, if you will. I think that's what we have a lot, in the African American community, especially, is you'll have people who will really be determined to make sure you don't feel too highly about yourself. But in a positive way, I've been able to amass a friend group and a familial circle that allows me to constantly realize that there's another plateau to reach. So never get too high on yourself. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and we call those people haters. Do you use the haters to boost you, or do you just disregard them altogether?
I don't give people who don't love and support me my energy. I just don't. I think that life is too short to be focusing yourself on people who don't love and care about you. If you love and care about the work that I'm doing, and the life that I've been able to build for myself and for my family, for the people that I love, then thank you, and I appreciate it and I love you. If you don't care for that, I don't have the energy to give you. I don't. I would rather just discontinue the interaction than to constantly be reminded that there are people who are quote unquote haters. I honestly, you'll never really hear me use that term, Raph. Haters, just because I think when we do that, thoughts become things, right? Thoughts become things. If you watch The Secret, if you read The Secret, they talk about thoughts become things. The things that you think about, you bring about. And if the thing that you're always talking about is, I got to address my haters, I have to prove my haters wrong, I got to prove my doubters wrong, then you're doing everything for them. You're doing it for them instead of for you. And I believe that I have to do what I have to do because I believe it needs to be done. If people love it, great. If people don't love it, I'm cool with that too. But I do it because it needs to be done, and because I believe that the work that I'm doing and the things that I do, I put my hands towards, is going to benefit the larger community, and that's going to include people that did not like me, and I'm cool with that. I don't need them to give me a parade for me to know that the work that I'm doing matters and is significant and important. So yeah.
All right, so let me push back on that a little bit, because a lot of people say, I don't care about what other people think. But I think in the back of all of our minds, at some point, at some level, we do care. If everybody in the world, everybody you could see, everything you heard was, you suck, you don't do this right, you're not good at this, would that play into your psyche at all? Or are you on a different level and it really 100% would not bother you?
I would need to juxtaposition your question this way. You, Raphael James, are in a different position in life where you are seen on a much larger scale, and there are people that will seek you out just to try to tear you down. In your position, I'm sure it'll be really difficult for me to have the mindset that I have. as your friend, as your brother, as one of your major supporters. That's one thing that I've always applauded you on, is the fact that you deal with that with such class and such dignity and such like grace. I don't know what ReZsaun would be like if ReZsaun had to sit in Raphael's shoes in that regard. Would say to the idea that I don't care. That's not at all what I'm saying. I absolutely care what people think.
Mhm.
I think that everybody cares what people think. I think, and I've actually done a few videos on this. Like, if we didn't care what people think, there's certain things that we do just because people care. Like, think about it. We put on clothes because people would care if we walked outside naked.
Right.
We wash because people would care if we were stink all the time. I brush my teeth because people would care if I went into my job without brushing my teeth, my mouth would smell a certain way. So these are things that we do because we care what people think. We dress a certain way because we care what people say about the way we speak the way we do, because we care what the way people think about the way we so those are all things that people do because they care. I would never say I don't care what people think. I would even say people make money. People get specific jobs because they care how people view them in terms of their professionalism. Like, people, we care. And if we didn't care, the world would be a whole lot different place if people, quote unquote, really didn't care what anybody thought. But what we drive, the way we live, who we marry, what we decide to wear, all of that speaks to the fact that we care. It's just that you have to identify how much you're going to let how much of your life you're going to allow caring what people think determine who you are and what you do.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. And I'm always kind of torn between when I hear people say, I don't care what you think. I'm always torn somewhere between admiration and incredulity.
Yeah.
Do you really? If you really didn't care what I think, you probably wouldn't have had the need to say that so forcefully. But then there's that other side where, man, I wish I could go and not care what people say.
Yeah.
And I think to a degree, I think you have to get to a place where you're comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And outside of that point, you've done the best you can for you and everybody around you. And at that point, if somebody doesn't like it, then okay, that's on you.
Absolutely. But I'm not going to change what I am. I'm not going to change who I am to make you happy. That's the difference.
There you go.
Right? That's the difference. I may care that you said ReZsaun sucks, but I care to the point where it's like, okay, cool, ReZsaun sucks. I will message you and say, hey, what about me sucks? What is it? Is that a point of a constructive criticism? ReZsaun sucks. Okay, let's break down ReZsaun sucks. Does ReZsaun suck because kids aren't actually being mentored? Does ReZsaun suck because, like, give me reasons. If there's something I can grow and improve upon, then cool, I'm with that. But if you're just saying ReZsaun sucks as a generic statement, okay, cool, you think ReZsaun sucks. Good for you. But nothing about ReZsaun's going to change because you say ReZsaun sucks. If you say ReZsaun's podcast sucks, that doesn't mean ReZsaun's going to stop making his podcast because people decided, oh, ReZsaun sucks. No, ReZsaun's not going to stop doing it. ReZsaun's not, because ReZsaun still does it because ReZsaun thinks it needs to be done. The reason I would stop doing what I do is because I think it no longer needs to be done, or I'm not adding anything positive to the space. That's what means something to me.
When you look out at our communities, our culture, do you find yourself having an overwhelming sense of sadness, disappointment, or hope, or a mixture of all three?
I think there's always going to be that diversity of situations, circumstances, if you will. I can be disappointed at times when I see, especially our young brothers, falling into situations that are not positive for them. Much in the way that when I was in school, I wasn't like the perfect student. Like, I did okay, as a student, but there were times I fell into some bad traps as well, but I praise God for the fact that I had people around me, again, that would always pull me out and say, ReZsaun, that's not you. That's not you. So I can definitely be disappointed at times. I find myself more hopeful in terms of where we are on a trajectory. I keep using that word. Our trajectory as a people. When I talk about people, I'm talking about right now African American people. I'm encouraged by what I saw, what I've been seeing in terms of the increase in awareness in what's going on in society. There will never be a time where 100% of people are involved in politics or involved in nonprofit work or not involved in just positive things. That will never be the case. If you look at any country, there's no country where 100% of people are living above the poverty level. It's just not a thing. But I believe that we are increasing the number of people who are actively engaged in what's going on. That makes me hopeful. Seeing the young people get involved in what's going on in political matters, getting involved in what's going on in terms of what's happening in terms of social justice. I liken what's happened in the last year or so to what happened during the civil rights movement, because I think for a long time, we as a people, African Americans again, got really comfortable. The civil rights movement happened and we're like, okay, cool. 1968 Voting Rights Act, we free now. And because we free, we don't got to do any more work. The work has been done. Martin did the work. Medgar did the work. Malcolm did the work. Rosa did the work. Septima did the work. Like, those people did the work, so we can chill. And it was about a 20-year period where we sat back. And I think that people are waking up and people are moving in the right direction, and that will always make me hopeful. I'm also hopeful when I look at our kids. Our children are freaking phenomenal. They're inspiring and they're doing amazing, amazing things. And I think the more us as the older generation decide that we're going to give them the keys and let them cook, we're going to see the amazing things that they're going to do. They're going to make a better world than we had when we came. They will.
At what age is it too late to reach a child?
I don't believe that at any age, there's no specific age in which a child is ready to be reached, is able to be reached. I do think this, though. I think that by the time a child is probably in 10th or 11th grade or around that age, they sort of know they know the direction that they want to go in, whether you want them to have a different one or not. So I think it's really important to get to kids at as early of age as possible and start talking to them about their future. I think the later we wait to talk to kids about their future, even in terms of like something as simple like questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's a really simple question that people used to ask. I was like, well, ask a kid that when they're 10 years old or when they're 8 years old. Well, because if I can get a kid to start thinking about being an astronaut at 8, I can start talking to them about what an astronaut does, what the requirements are to be an astronaut. Like I use astronaut because that's a really big goal to have. But I know a lot of kids, they'll be like, I want to be an astronaut. People are like, that's crazy. Don't be an astronaut. But you're telling that kid that their dreams aren't possible. And I think that because we stay away from that conversation, because I don't want to rush my child to think about adult things, a lot of times we sort of kick the can down the road in terms of beginning that adult thought process. Like in teaching, so I taught for 5 years, and in teaching we have what's called scaffolding, right? And scaffolding works like this. You learn a very basic thing. When you're in kindergarten, you learn numbers. So learn 1, 2, 3, 4. You learn your numbers, and then at some point they say, okay, cool, you can take these numbers, you can add them together. So now I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can add 1 plus 1. So now I've scaffolded from learning what a 1 is to knowing how to do something else with that 1. Then I'm going to teach you how to multiply that 1. I'm going to teach you how to subtract that 1. Then I'm going to teach you how to multiply that 1. Then I'm going to teach you how to divide that 1. Now I'm going to start adding algebra in. You're adding all these pieces on, but it all started with that original, what is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Right. We're talking about our young people until they're in high school to even interest the 1. And then we say, why aren't you successful? Why don't you want more for yourself? I've never to do anything. I've never given you any responsibility. I've never given you the opportunity to lead. I've asked you to be in a position to work in a team and do teamwork. I've never taken you to a college so you can see what a college looks like. I've never talked to you about what college is. And now you're in 8th grade. And you've not thought about any of this. So I'm going to drop an SAT book in your hand and say, okay, make sure you study and do well. So I said all that to say, back to your question, I think that if we start having those conversations earlier, it makes it a lot easier. So now if I have that kid that may have strayed away from the path, that's in 11th grade, but has been having those baseline conversations from a very young age, I can bring him back. That's why the Bible says, train a child in the way that they should go. Therefore, they will not stray from that path. The Bible doesn't say that they, it's not that they won't stray. It's that if they do stray, at least they know where the road is. But if you never learn where the road is, how can you find your way back when you stray?
Would you say, though, along those same lines, though, that I am an older parent, but I don't know everything about parenting. I look at your parenting style and put some things in my toolbox. When you have children, they don't come with instruction manuals.
They don't.
And if you're ill prepared to deal with life and basic skills when you have children, don't you think that puts you behind the curveball in terms of raising successful children?
Yes, but that's also why, as parents, as adults, we teach our kids, birds of a feather flock together, right? We teach our kids, surround yourself with friends that represent the person that you want to be. We teach our kids those things. And then as adults, we do the exact opposite. We say, oh, I'm gonna hang out with the turn up crew. You know, my squad, like, or, you know, like, but our kids see that, right? So when you become a parent, one thing that's important to do is surround yourself around other people who represent the lifestyle that you want to have. I think about DGC in that way. I am surrounded by phenomenal men all the time. Between you, Sam, like the people I mentioned earlier, Ken, Juwan, Jerome, James, Jason, like all these guys. I could list off 20, 30 guys that we've had, you know, we've built relationships with. Travis Wood, Ricardo Perry, men. So even if I came into the game without that institutional knowledge about being a father, like you said, I could watch them and I could pull tidbits. Oh, he does this. I love that. Oh, he does this with his kids. I love that. I want to try that. And maybe what he does doesn't work for me. But now I at least know what right looks like. When we do that as adults, our kids see that. And again, that's something that kids learn. Kids also don't learn from what we say. They learn from what we do. They learn from what we do. So we can't tell our children, hey, I don't want you cussing if you running around cussing at your kids. Cursing around your kids all the time, like that's just what you do. Well, don't cuss at me. Well, you cuss at your mom.
Mm-hmm.
I watched you do it, Ma. I watched you do it, Dad. So when you become a parent, you have to be aware of those things. Like, you're not going to know everything. Like you said, kids don't come with instruction manuals. Me and my wife have 5 children. Each of them are completely different. Every single one. But we give them what they need.
Right.
We give them what they need, and we ask them, what do you need? Like, how can I be a good dad to you? And once they get of age to be able to explain that to you, if you give them the words, if you give them the verbiage, if you give them that ability to express themselves, they'll tell you. That question, back to that original question, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's a very simple question, but it can open the doors to such a great discussion. My daughter, when she was 4 years old, Halloween came, she said, I want to be a doctor for Halloween. And I was like, that's a really interesting thing to want to be at 4. And I was like, why? She's like, because I want to be a doctor when I grow up, Daddy. She told me that at 4.
Very good.
And from that point, it was like, okay, logged in my head, my daughter wants to be a doctor. Even if at 4 years old, even if she changes her mind, she may change her mind and say, I want to be a psychiatrist, or that's the type of doctor. She may decide I want to be a hairdresser later. Whatever she would have said, I want to be that. So the question then became, how do I support this 4-year-old to become a doctor when she's graduating from high school and college? And so I started figuring out these different things. What are these things I can sign her up for that get her in positions for science? Now, when I have my conversations with her, when she's off track, hey, remember you told me you wanted to be a doctor, right? A doctor can't have a C in this class. You see how I just took that one question?
Right.
And I turned it into a whole life. Like, and here we are. My daughter's now 19 years old. She's a freshman at Clemson University, studying to become, you guessed it, a doctor. Now, is that 100% of the time going to happen? No. But if you just ask and give them the opportunity to say what they want, they will tell you.
You got
Praise
great
God.
kids, man. I enjoy looking through the lens of Facebook and Instagram and real life and seeing what they've accomplished. Let's talk about friendships, adult
Sure.
friendships. And I think that word goes over our head sometimes. When you're kids, friends are important. Um, then you sometimes drift apart. Do you still have the same impactful friendships that you had when you were a kid?
From being a kid, the kids that I used to roll around with, in the streets, like I don't see them every day. Like as a kid, like that was friendship. You'd hang out with them every day, and y'all did everything together. You know what I mean? And we've all grown up, and we live in different places on the, in the country and across the world. One of my friends is actually in Saudi Arabia right now. Julius Jones, if you watching, shout out to Juice. My best friend Javar White, he lives in Atlanta. Those are my people. Delano Cunningham, he lives in Charleston. Somerville. He's in Somerville. But I don't see them every day. But if I need to see them, I can. Our friendship still impactful? Definitely. It's just different. We're all me and Delano are fathers. The other two aren't. But we have different things to talk about. It's different types of relationships. Now, I also had a lot of friends that I made after high school. Friends that I was not necessarily friend with, but I'm really, really friends with now. Like I'll use Samuel Bellamy, who we went to high school with, and we weren't like tight. But now that's one of my best friends. Like I call him on a daily basis, like because he is just that ingrained in who I am as a person and the person that I want to be, somebody that I admire. I think about you. I think about you and your wife and our friendship and how if like we've cried together.
Right.
Like that's friendship as an adult. As a kid, that's not something that you would necessarily do. But
Right.
that's something that as an adult male, that's something that I value. That's something that I value and it's something that I protect. So in terms of impact, I do believe that my friendships are still very impactful. I believe that my friendships are really the thing that keeps me grounded and keeps me, balanced when I have friends who are just amazing, amazing men and amazing, amazing women who just represent themselves in such a light. Excuse me. And that's not even in terms of like being famous or being, having public notoriety, but I just mean on a day-to-day basis, stand-up people who, if you call, they're going to be there. There's times I had to call people and say, hey, I need support on this. And they've shown up without question. And that's the thing that I value. That's the thing that I appreciate, and I try to reciprocate because I think that it's another thing, like you said, that goes over people's heads, is that friendship is not something that you can put on and take off. Like it's a thing that has to be like real and reciprocal, and like you have to give back, and you have to be the type of friend that you want to have.
It's a great answer. And one of my reasons for asking it, and I try to ask a variation of that question to all of my guests, is because I really want to do a deep dive and a study into friendships. People have different personalities. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts. And even within that, there are varying branches of the personality test that you can go off on. But I feel like I'm the kind of friend who is low maintenance. When I see you, we can chop it up, we can talk, we can hang out, we can have a good time. And if I don't see you or talk to you for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, a year, when I see you again, we'll pick up from there. Other people will be like, if I don't talk to you every day,
Yeah.
are we really friends? So where do you fall into that category?
So in order to understand the type of friend I am, you have to understand my relationship with my dad. So I didn't grow up in my dad's house. My dad always lived within 15 to 20 minutes away from me, like my entire life. But I never lived in my dad's house. But we had a rule. The rule was no news is good news. If I don't talk to you, that means you're okay. I don't have to worry. If I call you, I need you to show up.
Okay.
I need you to pick up. I need you to be there. That's the type of friend that I am. I'm not the friend that's gonna call you every day, mainly because I hate talking on the phone. I hate talking on the phone. I will FaceTime with you, but as far as like just grabbing this thing and putting it to my ear, No, I hate that. I hate it so much. So I'm not going to talk to anybody every day. It's hard for me to text every day because I have a lot going on, and just like dedicating that much time to just typing words on a phone is not really something I'm really interested in doing either. But if you call me, I will be there. Before you can, for that phone call, and when you call me and say, ReZsaun, I need you, or ReZsaun, I need to talk, I'm clearing out my time so I can talk to you. And if I can't clear out the time right then, I'm setting a time where I can call you back and be a friend. I think that's the type of friend I am.
And I can attest to that. Some times where I've needed you, you did absolutely that. You stopped what you were doing, you made the time, and I'm always grateful for it, and I appreciate it. One of the demerits I give myself when it comes to being a friend is that I will respond when called upon. You know, if you need me, I'm there, no questions asked. But I'm not so quick to ask for help all the time. And I think maybe a lot of people are that way.
Yeah. I didn't want to put your business on Front Street. I was gonna let you say it. You definitely, man, as somebody who is your friend, man, you hold a lot, man. You hold a lot. Try to keep in mind with people like you, with you or anybody like you, is to always provide that opportunity to say, if you need me, I'm here. And when you do work up the nerve to say, I need you, I got to come through with that. And I think that people in your position are that way for a reason. I think either one, it's that you trusted somebody to be there and they weren't, they let you down. Or two, you feel like if I say that I need somebody, that person's going to look at me differently. And real friends have the ability to say, I don't care about that. Real friends have the ability to show consistency that allows you to walk through that door when you decide to. And real friends don't force you to walk through that door before you're ready. So that's why I have the approach that I have. Again, back to the relationship with my dad, like I always knew if I could go without seeing my dad for 7 months. If I went to my dad's job, I would literally go to my dad's job. I'd walk to the back. My dad was a butcher, and I'd walk to the back of the store, wherever grocery store he was working at the time. And I said, Dad, I need you to clock out.
Oh, wow.
He'd clock out.
He'd know what time it is. Okay.
He'd clock out. You're like, look, I gotta go. Like, I'll be back. And we go and we talk, and whatever I needed to tell my dad, I could tell my dad. And yeah.
Who would you say was the most influential person in your life? As in, if that person had never existed in your life, the you that I'm looking at would not be here.
I have to answer this in multiple ways. All right, so one, my grandfather. I moved in with my mom. I moved in with my grandparents when I was in first grade. From first grade through third grade, I lived with my grandparents. And my grandfather was just the greatest man I've ever known in my life. He didn't say a lot of words, but everything he said had so much weight. He was a great dresser. Just a cool guy, kept his car so clean. And a lot of the person that I've always wanted to be is him. So in that regard, him. Secondly, my dad is the hardest working person I've ever known in my life. Like I just told you, I would visit my dad at work. That was something that I did routinely if I needed to see him. Of course, I spent the night at the house every once in a while. Like I'd go for weekends every once in a while when I could. But when I became an adult, like our place to meet up would be at his job. My dad was always the hardest working person, so that part of me is there. My grandmother and my mom, I know that without them, ReZsaun doesn't exist. They've been the people that have uplifted me, and they have been really the emotional support. You know, my dad and my grandfather didn't have much in the terms of offering emotional support with my grandma, my grandma, and my mom, and then lastly, my wife, Toya. Without Toya, this version of ReZsaun did not exist in 2005. This version of ReZsaun did not exist in 2005, and I use 2005 as a demarcation point because that's the year that me and my wife started dating.
Mhm.
I'm a completely different man than I was then. Um, I was a shell of myself, and she saw something. I don't know if she saw this, but she saw something enough to cultivate it and to love it and to water it and allow it to bloom and blossom into the person that I am today. But
Right.
without her supporting me through every step of the way, um, everything from volunteering to the organizations that I work with, helping
Right.
me to work on my social media stuff, whatever it is that I've needed, she's been there. So without her, yeah. So I had to make sure I mentioned all those people because a lot of times I just say my wife, and I feel sort of like I'm leaving people out that
Mm.
are really, really important to the story of ReZsaun.
Well, shout out to Toya. I definitely know our spouses do have our back, and sometimes
You're
it takes somebody else to believe in you before you can believe in yourself.
right, because that was a really rough time for me. Like I think about 2005, man. Like I was still in the army, and the army was really hard for me. Like that was a really hard thing for me. I don't know what it was about it, but it just wasn't my bag. And I was in the army for 6.5 years. And I never felt worse about myself than when I was in the army. Except for 1 year when I was in Qatar and I killed it. But other than that, like it was really hard. So even when she met me, I was going through a divorce. Well, she didn't met me. We met in high school. But when we ran into each other again, I was going through a divorce. I was not feeling great about myself. My self-esteem was really low. And through it all, she still saw something great. And I can't thank her enough for having that willingness to work with me through that, because I'd imagine that couldn't have been too fun to deal with. But praise God, we're on the other side of it, man. Like you said, Raph, like it takes somebody to believe in you. And when that person is the person that's, you've pledged your life to, and the person that you've pledged to love and to hold till death do you part, that's a beautiful thing.
It is. It absolutely is. I want to ask you this: the biggest dream that you have that scares you. It's so big that it scares you.
My dreams don't scare me. I believe that the things that God has put in me to do, to aspire to, are things that I know are gonna be game changers. That doesn't scare me. That's the thing that keeps me moving. I'll give you a few things. So, one, I want to build Lowcountry Youth Services into the greatest mentoring organization in the state of South Carolina. I do. I believe that programming wise, we're part of the way there. But infrastructurally, there's a lot of things that we got to make sure that we get shored up to really be on that wall. But that's one that I do. Tied to Lowcountry Youth Services, I want to have a staff, men and women, that came through our programs. That's a dream for me. I want to create a structure where they can come up, grow up, and then take over and run it and make it even greater. That's a dream for me. I want to become a senator.
State or U.S.?
State, maybe U.S. once I make it to state, but state. Because I know that there's only so much change that you can make from the ground floor, and we need people who represent the thoughts and ideas of people who look and think like me, look and think like you, look and think like many of us who have been underrepresented and under appreciated by the political class. And I would love to do that. That's something I've really wanted to do for a long time. I'm just waiting for the right time. And I know people say, if you keep waiting for the right time's never going to happen. No, it's not a good idea to run for office when you're trying to build a nonprofit organization and in grad school. Just letting y'all, with a full-time job. It's not a great idea. Just telling y'all, if that's something you're considering doing, let some of the things go, then run for office. And that's what I'm going to do once I finish grad school. And, once Lowcountry Youth Services is where I want it to be, I will definitely be running. But those are dreams that I have and none of them scare me. I'm not afraid of what it's going to come with it, because I believe that if God has given me the vision, then God's given me, or He will give me everything that I need to be successful in that.
Very good.
So no, it doesn't. I'm not afraid of it. I mean, maybe like backlash or stuff, but like I told you in the beginning, I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that stuff.
I've always wanted this platform to be a symbiotic relationship. Hey, friend, meet my friend. My friend, meet my other friend. What do you need? What can my friends who are watching do to help you? How can they contribute to DGC, Lowcountry Youth Services, any other program that you have going on? And conversely, how can you reach out to them? Maybe they want to start a mentoring program. Maybe they don't know where to get started. How
Okay.
can we connect on another level?
Okay, so first I would ask that you go to our website, www.lowcountryyouth.org, and look at our programming. See what we offer. See how we're making impact. See how we're touching the lives of young people. Watch the videos. Look at the pictures. Read the testimonials. And if you see that and you realize that that's something that would be beneficial to you and to your causes, or to a great brand to align with your organization, your corporation, make a donation, form a partnership, form a sponsorship. There's a lot of opportunities. Like, our organization prides itself on our young men and on our work. We do, bar none. Like, we stand on the fact that we do the work and we do it really, really well. So that's the first thing, is make a donation. Follow us on social media. We greatly appreciate that, because as light as we take it, this social media thing really is as a numbers game, right? Right now, I think we have, I want to say 1,400 followers for Lowcountry Youth Services. That's really low. So if you could follow us, that'd be great, so that we can get more people to get eyeballs on what we're doing. Our organization, for all the great work we do, we are the vast majority. We have one part-time employee. Everybody else is a volunteer. We have one part-time employee. Everybody else is a volunteer. So with that being said, we're trying to build that infrastructural support system, that donor support system, that sponsor pool that will allow us to hire full-time staff and to really take the work to the next level, to build that infrastructural support. How can we help y'all? So Lowcountry Youth Services, we're here to work with the kids. I said in the beginning, I love kids, man. I love kids. I love what kids can be. I love what kids stand for. I love the hope that is in kids before people decide to kill it in them. And I want to cultivate it, and I want to build a culture of young people who believe in themselves over everything else. People who believe in their community and can be productive members of society, to do great things and not just like think that just getting by is enough. And I think that we can do that. So if you have kids, or you have kids or who you think would benefit from that type of programming, bring them over to LYS, www.lowcountryyouth.org. Sign them up for DGC. We have some girl stuff coming. We don't have anything yet. It's coming. Also, if you have an event, I actually have a community service aspect of our program as well, where they have to get 18 hours of community service. If you need some kids to come out and do some stuff at your event, we've worked with Habitat for Humanity. We worked with the Dream Girls Conference, Dream Sparkle Shine Conference. We worked with the Charleston Marathon. We've worked with Susan G. Komen Marathon, all these different things. So if you need kids to come out and do some stuff at your event for community service hours, same place, www.lowcountryyouth.org. Put in a request and we'll have us come out.
And when you say you've worked with them, describe the kind of work that you've done with these organizations. What kind of tasks and jobs are the young men capable of doing?
Yeah, so we've done help with setup and tear down. We've helped with maintenance throughout sessions. We've helped facilitate sessions. We've had kids that have actually sat on panels in workshops to help to lead the workshops. We've of course, like the cleanup stuff at the marathon. We've handed out water. We've helped with tracking the time. I mean, between our mentors and our kids, there's nothing our kids can't do that isn't harmful or dangerous, or involving drugs or alcohol. But other than that, like we're pretty open to getting the work done, man. Our kids, they actually enjoy it. They enjoy coming out and having that time, because that's more time with the mentors. Because every time we send the kids, we don't just send kids, we send mentors with them. So that's more engagement opportunities.
And now you see what I see. Now you know why I think this young man is a dope friend. And thank you very much for taking this opportunity to grace us here on the Dope Friends podcast, the Dope Friends Show. I've got something for you. I wasn't able to get the t-shirt for this week, but as soon as I get it in, you've got one coming your way.
Say less. I appreciate it, man. I love you, man. I love everything that you stand for. I love everything that you are as a human being. Even if you weren't an anchor, like, you're just a great person. You're a great dad. You're a great husband. You're a great friend. And like I told you earlier, I just always want to make sure you know that door is open. Don't let something get so heavy that you fall carrying it.
I appreciate
let somebody help you carry that load, man. Because if you don't, you'll break.
I appreciate that, brother. I really do. It's what friendship is about, and that's what I'm hoping we can stress. Reaching out to a friend and talking sometimes isn't just about keeping in touch. Sometimes it's mental health, and you never know how much the smallest thing you can do could impact someone's life.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Mr. ReZsaun Lewis, thank you so much. My hat's off to you and all that you're doing in the community, or should I say, Senator Lewis.
One day, uno dia.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, bro, I appreciate you.